black and blue. Fight night. The greatest gladiator match in the history of the world. God versus man. Day versus night. Son of Krypton versus Bat of Gotham.
That's just epic. That's like what was the dude's name that would always introduce the main event at like
I was
WrestleMania and
looking
stuff
around.
like
I couldn't remember it either, but I was kind of looking around because I was messing around with making that buffer, and I was thinking about
Buffer. But
bumper.
Buffer's
But
Michael
Buffer
Buffer,
was
I
the
think.
guy's name. I forgot it too. So I was googling, and so I was trying to find like the WCW, and he did all the boxing stuff, and he has a brother that does UFC. Actually, I didn't know that until today.
I didn't know that.
Bruce Buffer is his brother. Bruce Buffer is the brother.
Say that a few times fast.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't remember that until today, and I was googling around, so I was listening to all kinds of Michael Buffer.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Buffer. Yeah, I'm getting confused.
So main event, fight night.
Yeah.
I love that whole thing, and we're talking Batman versus Superman here. And Adam, one of the wonderful ideas you came up with for this new era in our show is to look at the conflict in stories, and then just look at each side, look at from a certain point of view. Maybe I would represent one side, and Adam would represent the other, and just talk about that conflict. And that's what we're gonna do today with Batman versus Superman. And we mentioned the Rotten Tomatoes score of Batman versus Superman, and I just want to bring that up again because on the critic side it has a 28%, and the audience score is 62%.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's lower than Justice League, and it's lower than a lot of other films. But
I will say that's insane that it's lower than Justice League.
Yeah, for me it is too. I think this is a better movie than Justice League.
We'll talk about Justice League later. I didn't mind Justice League. I didn't think it was the worst movie ever, but it was not. This is better than Justice League.
Yeah, I'm with you. So, given that information, what were your thoughts about Batman versus Superman when it first came out?
And... initially, I actually didn't see it in theater. There was a time right around where this came out where I didn't really see a lot of movies in the movie theaters. I was watching a lot at home and just didn't have a lot of time. I was working a lot of overtime back then, blah 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 blah, that stuff, life stuff. So I didn't see this in the theater. I saw it at home on Blu-ray, and I enjoyed it. I don't know if it was just kind of because at that point I'd already seen reviews, and so maybe I'm tempering my expectations a little bit, and maybe I'm expecting it to be bad. And, I'm watching it and kind of having fun, and I'm digging it. And then this fight comes. I'm like, well, that's pretty epic. And, I didn't mind it. I liked it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I really enjoyed it the first time I saw it. I mean, I don't think everybody with me that we saw it in the theater, I don't think everybody else enjoyed it as much as I did. That's back when I was doing my Roush rating reviews, if you remember back in those days.
I definitely remember, yeah.
And I gave this one an 8 out of 10. I remember specifically giving this movie an 8 out of 10.
It's hard to argue with that for me, at least.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it very much. I like that it's kind of has an epic feel to it, like you mentioned. But it's also very like dark and gritty, and that of course has that Zack Snyder style to it. Where Marvel's
now that you
mentioned
Zack Snyder, I just want to throw in here that I lately have only been watching the director's cut of this.
Yeah,
and that's that's a 3-hour long version. There's more in it. I think it's worlds better. Even though I like the theatrical version, I think the extended cut, the director's cut, is worlds better. It gives a lot more time for things to develop. It spends a lot more time on things like Doomsday and that type of stuff. So I think if you want to give this another try, you should look at that version.
Yeah, for sure.
And by the way, I think I got this on sale. Yeah. I think I got the extended edition digital version on sale for like $7 or something like that.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not much now. And
yeah,
it's if you have HBO Max already, it's on there.
It's on there as well. Right.
So yeah, I'm a big Marvel fan too, and Marvel is a little bit more light and on the kind of humorous side, and with their films. But DC has taken a much different approach, and I like that. I think it's kind of refreshing in a way.
Yeah,
um
yeah.
I
It sets them
loved
apart. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love this depiction of Batman. I love Ben Affleck's version of Batman in this film. It's one of my favorites, actually. I just like this kind of older, grittier Batman that he's in a place right now where, if he has to take somebody out, he has to take somebody out. He's
Yeah,
been in Gotham for 20 years and that whole thing.
Yeah. No, he's jaded.
He's pretty brutal in this movie.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. And I like how this movie also asks some deep moral questions about good versus evil, and what is good, and all about like the people that have control and have power. Can they be all good, or can or not? And like Lex Luthor kind of asking those kind of questions.
Right.
And I like all those types of things where you have to. This movie makes you think a little deeper, I think, than most superhero films. And I really enjoy all of the Batman action that we get to see in this film. I think that a lot of that action is really great. Especially that scene where he's saving Martha. I think that is such a cool
Yeah.
Batman scene, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
There's a lot of great Batman action in this. There's the one in that desert compound, or wherever the thing was.
Yeah.
Where he shows up in the top corner, and there's that, and like you said, there's that warehouse or whatever they abandoned.
Yeah, it's like a warehouse
building or
type
warehouse
thing,
or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
Great
and
Batman action.
I love seeing kind of our first, correct me if I'm wrong, but almost the first look we get at a DC team up with Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman. And I
On
thought that was
film,
really cool
yeah,
too.
probably,
Yeah, on film,
yeah,
yeah.
yep. For sure. And then I actually loved how it starts. I love getting that different perspective on the the
Yes.
Zod attack at the beginning. Seeing it from Bruce's point of view.
Absolutely, it has a great opening.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty smart, tying it in that way. So loved how it started with that.
Yeah, and I think it directly addressed some people were critical of Zack Snyder's Superman film, and the way that he and Zod just kind of tore up the city and destroyed things and everything.
Right.
And he kind of directly addresses that in this film.
Yeah.
Which I thought was great too.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what the film is about,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. That's really where this conflict starts.
Mm-hmm. And one other thing I'd just like to mention is I felt like it had pretty high stakes too, because we get the death of Superman in this film, which was, for me, I was shocked, about that. And so that kind of raised the stakes, and I always like it when films or TV shows like present an actual threat, like there's actual danger and there's actual consequence,
Yeah.
But now we're going to get into the conflict between Batman and Superman, and looking at, kind of each of their point of view and where they're coming from. And Adam, you kind of mentioned the beginning of this film, and that's where I want to start with Batman's perspective. And I'm kind of taking Batman's perspective and you're taking Superman's. But feel free to, of course, chime in at any point.
Okay.
If you want to speak up for Batman too at all.
Okay.
But yeah, we get this look at this destruction that's being caused in Metropolis by this battle between Zod and Superman. And basically, from Batman's point of view, I think he's thinking to himself, Superman brought an alien invasion to Metropolis, leveled countless buildings, caused unnecessary destruction, including one of his, one of Wayne's buildings, I think, with his employees in it, I believe. So, that's I get where Batman's coming from with his kind of the way he feels about Superman.
Yeah, I mean, especially the way they portray that at the beginning of the movie, it's very easy to emotionally latch on to what Bruce is seeing and feeling. They do the whole scene with the little girl. The little girl has lost her mom or both parents, I forget which.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah, that's very easy to latch on to. He's talking to someone from his company, from Wayne
Yeah.
Enterprises on the phone there as the building is collapsing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another element where the guy starts praying before he dies. I mean, this is easy stuff to emotionally latch onto. From Superman's side of this, though, I mean, first of all, Batman, Bruce isn't seeing that Superman has no control that a renegade remnant of Krypton survived their planet exploding and made it to Earth to find him. And if Superman at this point, I mean, if he doesn't act, what happens here? I mean, Superman, that fight absolutely causes mass destruction. It causes death. It's a tragedy all around. And you see how, Superman knows this. Clark knows this. You see how deeply it affects him in this movie, and I think that's a lot of what Superman's struggle is in this movie, is dealing with who he is and how his actions have affected everyone around him. When he's only trying to help people, do the right thing, and so he's kind of questioning his own role in this, I think. So, it's a hard line to walk because, like, he, if he doesn't step in, it's worse.
Yeah. And it's been a while since I've seen Man of Steel. Was Zod basically trying to change Earth into Krypton? Was it like a planet changing type of thing, or am I thinking of the wrong thing?
No, as far as I remember, that's kind of what he's doing, is recreating Krypton,
Right.
more or less. But
yeah, so if Superman wouldn't have stepped in, it would have been even worse, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So another thing from Batman's point of view, I feel like, and he even says this line, if he wanted to, he could burn the whole place down. He could burn the world down, just because of his power. And who does Superman answer to? He needs to be held accountable for his actions. And like Lex Luthor said, if God is all powerful, he cannot be all good. So basically, if Superman is all powerful, he can't possibly be all good. So do you have anything to add on about that, or any counter argument from Superman's point of view?
I mean, yeah, there's a couple things here. I don't think Superman has a problem necessarily answering to someone, because he does show up at the hearing, at the congressional hearing,
Mm-hmm.
something I don't think he had to do, and who's going to force him to show up, So I mean, he does do that. I think he's willing to hear that, and he's Clark isn't one to kind of shut others out, so I think he's open to that idea that he can talk to someone. He can show up at this hearing. I don't think he's operating on his own just because he can and he wants to,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of question Lex's point of view here.
Mm-hmm.
Superman's not all powerful, and Lex approaches him as he is, but Lex is also the one that's actively trying to find ways to kill him. So that in itself, I think, kind of is it's a paradox at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to kill the thing that he says is all powerful. So he's maybe proving that he's not all powerful, and maybe just challenging then that point that he all good. But then I also talked a little bit earlier that if he's not all good, then I don't think he would actually want to answer to anybody, and he does show that willingness. But then I go back to kind of what Martha Kent said, his mother said, his adopted mother says, he doesn't really owe the world anything. The world's more in debt to him,
Mm-hmm.
but Clark never really treats it that way. He's more humble, maybe. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a lot of people seeing what he can do, and I think there's some clouded judgment there, for sure. At least on the part of Lex and Bruce. I have to put Bruce in that category too.
Yeah, I can see that. Sure. And as I mentioned earlier, this is a toughened Batman. This is a darker, grittier Batman.
This is the kind of the more the Frank Miller Batman, the Dark Knight Returns Batman.
Definitely has that feel to it, which I love.
And it makes sense because the Batman v Superman fight is Dark Knight Returns stuff.
Right. Right. So what we see here is, I think Batman has kind of seen the limitations of the law.
Yeah.
One aspect of this is the whole bat branding thing. And basically it's like a death sentence for these criminals if they get that brand. So I don't know if Batman's intentionally doing that or not, but maybe if he is, he's probably thinking, I've seen the limitations of the law. If justice can't be served by the law, then Batman kind of needs to take it into his own hands. Needs to take justice into his own hands.
Yeah, I mean, I have to think that he is doing it on purpose. I mean, he shows up to Lex's cell at the end of the movie, and he's
with that
really willing to brand him right there.
Yeah.
See, this is where I love Batman. I love Bruce Wayne. This is where I have to kind of call him on this stuff. There's some hypocrisy going on here, because Bruce's notion is, that Superman is too powerful and therefore is a danger to people. But yet he's also, like you said, he wants to be the judge, jury, and executioner here. He wants the same power, So he's kind of doing the same thing. And if it's dangerous for Superman, it's dangerous for Batman. It's kind of the same thing. There's definitely a hypocrisy going on there, from what I see.
I think we can see that same thing in our world as well with regular people, just kind of being sometimes quick to point out the flaws in others, but then not seeing maybe you're doing the same exact thing just on the other side, So I think there's definitely things we can even learn from this as well, especially as we get toward the end where they ultimately work together.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, because Bruce isn't really willing to see where Superman is at on this stuff. Bruce is seeing what's happening around him, but he's not kind of thinking about, where, what Clark is doing and why Clark is doing it, or Superman's doing and why he's doing it.
Yeah.
I
think he's just it's almost guilt by association, because
like
he's like near where these things are happening, but he's maybe not the cause of them. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the bombing of the Capitol, I mean, Lex kind of really, I think, does a good job of orchestrating all this. But I think if you're Bruce, the great detective, I think you got to step back. Maybe it's a passion thing, maybe it's a heat of the moment thing. But I think you got to kind of take a step back and think about that. And I don't think he ever really does. He just forges ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the next point I was going to get to, that from Batman's perspective, the only way to stop Superman from destroying the world is to steal the kryptonite and use it against him. And now Batman's thinking he was likely involved in that explosion at the Capitol because, again, he was present, he was there.
Right.
Guilt by association, and he must be stopped at this point.
Yeah, I mean, but if you're Bruce, I think that Superman's actions leading up to everything should kind of give Bruce pause. Superman's never really been the one to provoke anything. He didn't really provoke that fight with Zod. He's stepping in to protect. You talk about stealing the kryptonite. Batman is really the one, obviously, that's provoking this whole thing here. Batman's crossing that line. Superman never does that. Superman hasn't done that. Even through the fight, Superman's trying to make peace with Batman, and Batman's just not having any of it. Batman really is what he fears in Superman in this movie. So like where he's trying to stop this type of actions from Superman, he's doing these things. He's doing the things that he's afraid of. I say
becoming that thing that he wants to destroy.
And I say afraid, and I think it really is a lot of what this movie is about is fear. This is all fear, letting fear control your actions. As Bruce, Lex is a little bit different. I mean, I think there's definitely some fear involved there. Lex is crazy. He's just nuts. But I mean, Batman's motivations, I think, are just purely born out of fear here.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think it is largely about fear, the fear of kind of what this powerful being could do, you know, and not having control over that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now that we've kind of looked at each of their points of view leading up to their conflict, leading up to their battle ultimately, let's take a look at Lex Luthor's role in this conflict because he's the one that's
This is
really,
important. Yeah.
yeah, he's really the one that's driving this conflict forward. First of all, he sets up Superman in the desert
Right.
in one of the beginning scenes of the film, and just making it look like Superman has killed all these people, and um, that's another thing, just for him to appear to the world and to Batman as if he's guilty, you know.
You're right.
Um,
Right.
and of course, the entire time he's kind of egging Batman on with these notes and with these messages and everything, saying that he let his family die.
Yeah.
In the whole, I think he referencing the Metropolis thing that happened with his employees. Is that what Lex means
I
with
think
this?
he's trying to push both buttons
Both
simultaneously.
buttons, like his parents and
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I think he's trying to push both buttons at the same time.
Right. And then, right before his whole fight night speech, he's trying to force Superman to kill Batman in order to
Mm-hmm.
save his mother, Martha. And it's that name Martha that actually um, ends up being the thing that gets Bruce and Superman past their differences. However you feel about that Martha moment, because I know there's some criticism
It
of
can
that
be
whole thing.
cheesy. I can see where it can be
Right.
cheesy,
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
but it's like the love they have for their mother, really, and that
I
makes
think it
them
was a
come together.
cool way to
Hmm.
de-escalate things,
Yeah. Yeah. So ultimately they get past their differences here, and they work together to take down
Right.
Doomsday and everything else like
Right.
that. So um I don't know, what can we, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but what can we learn from this,
So for
really?
me, especially I'll go back to the Lex part because I want to talk about the Lex part a little bit.
Hmm.
For me, it's a lesson to think about, stepping outside of everything that's happening around you to try to see if there's something causing you to feel or act the way you do, that maybe isn't exactly how you would normally react or perceive a situation. So, in other words, Lex is really the one that's manipulating this whole thing, from both sides. Lex is kind of playing Superman and Batman against each other, trying to provoke this fight, trying to take one or both of them out, really hopefully taking out Superman in the process. Um, I don't know that Bruce would have reacted the same way if Lex wasn't involved in this. And so, I think Lex is really the one. So, like, we talk, we really find out that both aren't really in the right. I don't think, you know.
Hmm.
But I don't know that Bruce would have done the things that he did without Lex, and so
Right.
I think that's a lesson to, um, when you're in the heat of the moment like that, to maybe try to think about what's going on around you, so that you're not reacting in such a way that is impulsive,
Hmm.
that's kind of taking cues that are being set out for you. I think it's a good lesson to not be so, um, red hot with your
Yeah.
reactions.
Yeah, I'm with you. For me too, I just looking at Batman as an example, he's just going straight into fight mode, and I think that's
Mm-hmm.
what we do a lot when we disagree with somebody or we don't see their
Right.
side. We just go straight into fight and attack mode instead of really stepping back and taking a minute to maybe try to understand the other person and where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And, I think we could all get a lot further if we did take a breath, take that step back, try to consider the other side, and maybe even work together or meet somewhere in the middle. So I think it's something we can all learn from and do a better job of, for sure.
Yeah. Definitely.
Um, but yeah, and I think given Lex Luthor's role in this whole conflict, I think it makes him a great villain in this film. And Originally,
I wasn't really excited about Jesse Eisenberg being.
I wasn't either. Like, I was like, give me Bryan Cranston as Lex Luthor. Like,
I
think
wanted Kevin Spacey, and I know how that would have worked out later with all that stuff. But I mean, just because he was in Superman Returns before that and did an amazing job at Lex Luthor, I wanted him back again. I also was wondering about, and I'm going to blank on the guy's name, but the guy that was Lex Luthor in Smallville. Was an amazing Smallville, and I've always been of the opinion that I think he should be in a film. But I was not on board with Jesse Eisenberg at first.
I wasn't either, but I think he pulled it off, and I think he's very eccentric, of course. Lex Luthor, very kind of bizarre in this way, but I think sometimes when you have somebody that's so highly intelligent like that,
Michael Rosenbaum,
you see those types of things.
Lex Luthor in Smallville, by the way.
Who was it?
Michael Rosenbaum.
Okay, yeah. So, that's Batman versus Superman from a certain point of view, and I'm glad we got to break that down. That was a lot of fun. And let's take a look. We mentioned Justice League earlier, and we're heading towards the Snyder Cut of Justice League. So as we look towards that, what was your opinion of the theatrical cut of Justice League?
I thought it was okay. Like I think for me, once I get into a theater seat and I'm watching a comic book movie, I'm just okay. That's kind of comfortable for me, and it's just easy for me to watch. So I don't really go in to criticize it too much. So I just kind of sit back and have fun, and munch on my popcorn and just have a good time. So that's kind of what happened here with Justice League. I was, just enjoying it as I went. My biggest complaint coming out of it is that tonally it was very different, and you can absolutely see where it wasn't a Zack Snyder film anymore. It was more like a Marvel movie. So that was my biggest complaint, was that it didn't kind of feel the same as Batman v Superman, or really any of them for that matter.
For me, I was very critical of this film, and it's not very often that I'm very critical of a film, but for whatever reason, this one just didn't sit well with me. I think because it was so tonally different from Zack Snyder, and I could almost feel that there were like two different directors like working on this film. A lot of it felt disjointed. The editing wasn't great. I felt like there was some cheesy dialogue in there and some bad acting in the film too. So all those things, it makes it hard for me when I don't feel like it almost felt like they were trying to do a Marvel movie in a way, but it was like a B movie almost.
I can see that.
Yeah. So I was very critical. So therefore, I am very much looking forward to the Snyder Cut. Like you mentioned earlier, even the extended version of Batman versus Superman kind of just gives more time for things to develop. I think we're going to see that with the Snyder Cut of Justice League. Just getting more time to develop all these characters, develop the story, have that Zack Snyder feel to it. And I think it will feel more like a continuation of Batman versus Superman, versus it almost feeling like these two separate disjointed things, like the theatrical cut was. So what are you looking forward to with the Snyder Cut?
I'm just glad that knowing why Zack stepped away from Justice League and all that stuff, I'm just glad that he gets a chance to finish it out.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I don't think I'm expecting the best comic book movie of all time. I'm not expecting.
No.
I'm not expecting this to blow my mind. I'm not expecting any of that. I'm just glad that he got a chance to kind of come back and finish what he started.
Absolutely. Just like Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
So anyhow, that wraps up our Batman versus
Star Wars.
We're not done with Star Wars. So yeah, this was great fun. I really enjoyed talking Batman versus Superman. Really excited about Justice League Snyder Cut, which I'm sure we will review. So be looking forward to that. And I think we're ready to wrap up the show.